You are still muted, sir.
What's up, everybody? We are
we are off to a hot start. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Week 2 Sunday Night Recap presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my co-hosts, Josh, John, Luke, and Jay. What's up, boys?
What up?
What's happening?
Feeling good. I had to check. I was like, is my sound not
I
working?
was wondering the same thing.
I was like, I'm going to have to figure this whole thing out now. Like, no, we're good, though.
Welcome to the FanDuel Mime Show, brought to you by FanDuel.
It was so perfect.
Yeah, we're going to be getting all of our analysis today and all of our fantasy takeaways just in gestures. It's like a game of categories going on in here, so make sure you are ready to interpret. Jay is the best at it, obviously, as you can tell, but Josh has been practicing. We got some people in the chat here to hang out. What's up, Barry? Welcome in, Barry? Saying first. And Maria said, I was first. Welcome in, Maria. And Ryan in here, EDKH. I don't know what that means. Hopefully it's nothing bad that I just said on air, Ryan, but I'm going to trust you.
It did.
And Maria said, totes Ryan, me too. Totally. So you guys are on the same page over there. Guys, today we had week 1 last week. It was a bit overwhelming. It was crazy. We were all just like so excited to jump in with 1 week of football, make these grand assumptions about what the rest of the season was going to be. And very clearly today, you cannot base an entire season off of 1 week because the results were very, very different.
We're going to be mean that it's not going to be the same every week?
No, it's going to be different. Can you believe it?
I don't believe you.
Just because Patterson got 2 touchdowns today doesn't mean that's happening every single week, but it could, I guess. Maybe we project week 2 on instead of week 1 on like we have been doing. Guys, everyone here watching, if you have not already done so, before we get into the analysis, hit that like button on this and subscribe to FanDuel on YouTube and go follow them on Twitch. We are here every Sunday at 7 p.m. and Fridays at 6 p.m., but there are a ton of other awesome content creators, so you got to make sure you're following FanDuel on all of their socials so you're not missing out on the awesome content they are putting up. Ryan's in here saying week 1 and week 2, my teams are better than Jay's. So Jay,
probably.
All that matters.
You don't have to do much to get that. So.
Hey, you better watch it. I had a good week 1, week 2, not so much. It's not going very good. So.
No, week 2's been rough. Guys, before we jump into our week 2 slate of games and dive through them one by one, I wanted to go ahead. I know the 4 p.m. games aren't over, but take a look at the top point scores on FanDuel so far. There might be some players we want to talk about on here, some surprises, or some guys that just showed up that we knew were going to show up. So let's go ahead and pull that up over here. And I'm going to refresh this page, make sure we have the latest information.
We better. And let me tell you, this has been a fun week. The 4 o'clock games, they're fantastic. They're still going at it. The only game that's out of reach is the Atlanta Tampa Bay game. But man, I really enjoyed watching football today.
Me
and
too.
The Falcons really fought back too. You know, it started out
did.
ugly, and then they were within a field goal going into the fourth quarter.
Hey, listen up. They got the ball with over 4 minutes left. They're down 2 scores. I know. They're still, let's not count them out quite yet. I don't think they're going to win. Don't get me wrong, but there's a possibility.
It is possible. Tim's in here says Gronk on pace for 2 TDs a game. Dynasty tight end 1. Tim, I think you mean dynasty wide receiver 1.
Right. That's how things work here.
Everybody's the dynasty wide receiver 1 if they show up. And Kevin here saying bird up.
Bird up,
guys.
Kev.
First thing I want to talk about today is this Cooper Kupp stat line. So he showed up last week. People were excited about his connection with Matthew Stafford, what we saw in week 1. And we were wondering what was going to happen in week 2. Was it going to be a Robert Woods week? Would this be an offense that kind of spread it around? Like different weeks would be a different guy, but it's looking like Cooper Kupp might be the guy in that offense. How excited are you for Cooper Kupp rest of season? Like if you had to rank him as a wide receiver rest of season. And then the other question is, are you scared about Robert Woods? Does Robert Woods scare you with this volume that Cooper Kupp is getting? Josh, you're sitting there nodding. So whether you wanted to volunteer or not, we're going to come to you first with that question.
I always get roped into these, but I'm okay with it because Cooper Kupp freaking killed it. This is an easy answer for me. Cooper Kupp is the one on this offense. Matthew Stafford and him obviously have a connection. Robert Woods is going to be fine. He's going to be a great flex play week in and week out. But Cooper Kupp is the guy for this offense. That connection is real, guys. We were talking about it before while we were watching the games together, and I don't know if we did a redraft right now. We were talking about how high Cooper Kupp would go, and I think pretty freaking high. I'm thinking 3rd round for sure.
Really?
Cooper Kupp. Yeah.
That high.
That high.
Would you take him
So-
there, or you just think that's where he's going to wind up?
I'm not saying I would take him there, but Simon asked me a great question. What was it, Simon? CD
Cooper
Lamb?
Kupp or CD Lamb rest of season? Who do you want on your team?
Yeah, I think that's the line. And I think CD Lamb was a late third round pick in a lot of drafts. And I'm taking Cooper Kupp ahead of CD Lamb.
Yeah, I think so too. It is very close, but that was the player that I zoned in on where I had the trouble thinking it. Jay, what about you? Are you going Cooper Kupp or CD Lamb rest of season based on what we've seen through 2 weeks? Because
I
CD
think,
Lamb's looked good. It's not like he's looked bad.
He's having a
Right,
good week
but-
tonight as well.
But I think it's in Dallas, it's the 1A and 1B show with Damon Cooper, and in Los Angeles, it's all Cooper Kupp. He's the one. So I think I would go Cooper Kupp as well. As crazy as it is to say, we would have said this 3 weeks ago. Everybody would look at us like we got three heads, but there is obviously some connection between Stafford and Kupp, and hopefully it continues because I have him in my most important league. So I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. That's the only good thing for me today.
On a similar line, I said to you guys earlier today that I put Antonio Brown in my lineup ahead of Robert Woods. And I mean, it's not going great for me today, but I don't regret the decision. I think it makes sense based on what we've seen from those two players. And rest of season, I'm going to have trouble not continuing to make that move unless we see something different from this Los Angeles Rams offense, because Robert Woods is a second thought to Cooper Kupp. He's not the 1A, 1B anymore like it was last season. Ryan in here agreeing with us saying Kupp all day over CD Lamb. And Tim saying, nope, Falcons are not still in it. Bucks just got another pick.
Yeesh.
Six.
I think
Guys,
I might go CD Lamb here. I might still go CD Lamb over Cooper Kupp just in talent alone, but man, it sucks that it's that hard to choose.
Right?
It's close. I don't
It's
blame you
close,
for going
yeah.
CD Lamb. I don't.
No.
I don't. And
Yeah,
people might say we're
it's-
overreacting, but there's something real with this connection. Like
And as
there's
good as this offense has
overreacting.
looked through 2 games.
Yeah.
And then there's reacting. It's okay to react and change based on new information. You don't want to overreact. And like the reason I would classify this as like changing to new information is the assumption all off season was that Woods and Kupp would be 1A and 1B. It wasn't that like Kupp was a nobody. So like whenever we see Patterson out there today, I don't think we can assume suddenly he's going to be the bell cow for Atlanta, right? That wasn't something that doesn't go along with the story we had been told in the off season. But Woods and Kupp, this is within the realm of outcomes that we already assumed, and we have seen it on the field now. So I think it's okay to make those changes.
And then throw in Matthew Stafford. It's his first year with the Rams. We didn't really know what this was going to look like, and we're getting our first glimpse at it these last 2 games. And I envision this going forward. Cooper Kupp will be a dominant fantasy wide receiver.
Before we move on to our next players, some of these slate breaker guys, I wanted to touch on Cooper Kupp's value on FanDuel this week. I don't think you're going to be getting this kind of value on him going forward. With a $6,200 salary, he was so far is the highest return on value positional player. There's one defensive team. The Buffalo Bills were a higher return on value, but Cooper Kupp returned 5.2x value on FanDuel this week. I have to imagine after 2 weeks like this, his salary is just going to keep on going up. But if you put him in your lineup this week, congratulations. That was quite a play for you. Derrick Henry started out the game slow. That first half was looking kind of rough, but now he's snuck up there into this top 5. So all concerns assuaged for Derrick Henry, or assuaged, however you say that word. Is anyone still concerned about Derrick Henry?
I like that you attempted it.
Assuaged.
I've read it a bunch of times. I've just never said it out loud.
You just made that up right now, didn't you?
Assuaged.
Let's see.
Derrick Henry, I'm glad he got these touchdowns, but 26 carries, he's not going to get 26 carries every game. But I mean, this is a shootout of a game, so they obviously wanted to get him involved. I'm glad to see this for Derrick Henry. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too much else we need to say about a superstar like that. There are some more interesting players we can talk about. Tyler Lockett yet again shows up for the Seahawks. We talked about it last week. I brought it up, and everyone said, no way, DK Metcalf is still the receiver to own in that offense for the rest of the season. But this is 2 weeks in a row now. We're seeing Tyler Lockett kind of show up as that guy. Are you guys concerned about DK Metcalf in this offense? Would you rather have Tyler Lockett, or is you still not reacting to this? This goes in the category of don't overreact.
Someone else take this
I would say still don't overreact. That offense is very volatile in general. Tyler Lockett is gonna continue, I think, to get these touchdowns, but I think DK Metcalf's going to keep getting involved and probably get involved more.
They both have 9 targets. So just to throw that out there.
I'm just not that worried.
Yeah, this is another offense that really has a 1A and 1B situation. And it's just so far this early in the season, it's gone Lockett's way, and it'll swing the opposite way eventually too. So I'm not worried about DK at all.
We don't need to talk too much about Christian McCaffrey. We know the kind of player he is. An interesting player I wanted to talk about, though, was Mike Evans with the bounce back game. 5 receptions, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It was both of the touchdowns were very Mike Evans-esque. He had a 1-yard touchdown pass. They were quintessential Mike Evans touchdowns. But I just want to bring this up to make sure everyone knows you're likely going to get another game like last week for Mike Evans. It's going to happen. He's going to put up some goose eggs, especially with the way this offense is run with those 3 receivers. But you're also going to get games like this, these 2 touchdown games for Mike Evans. It's part of what having him on your team as a fantasy manager is like. If you're putting him in your FanDuel lineups, there's always the chance of getting skunked. But he has this type of elite upside, like the 2-3 touchdown upside in a game. Anything else you guys want to add about Mike Evans?
Well, not only the 3 wide receivers, but Gronk has apparently come back to life as well. I think he's went back in age about, and Amari Cooper is down for injury. So, that's not very good.
Well, hey, can we go back to the CD Lamb Cooper Cup discussion?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, he's got to, battle with Gronk for touches as well. So it's like you said, this is the quintessential Mike Evans game. It's just you'll have these games and then you'll have the goose eggs like last week.
Yep, it's going to happen. Tim in here saying DK's still getting red zone targets. Lockett just gets the long bombs. He said lucky bombs. I'm going to change it to long bombs. I don't think it's just luck in there for Lockett, but there's definitely more variability in the way Lockett scores his points. One other player, or I guess 2 other players I wanted to talk about, guys, before we moved into our game-by-game breakdown. We got to talk about Patterson. I mentioned him in the intro whenever we were coming in. So he had 7 rushes for only 11 yards, but a touchdown there. 5 receptions, 58 yards for a touchdown as well. 21.4 points on FanDuel. This may have gone up at this point, but that was from the last time I refreshed. Do you guys think he can be a flexible option going forward, or is he someone you should look at matchup wise to throw into your FanDuel lineups? Like, is this someone who can continue being a value or a sneaky play?
The way they're using him, the way they're using him last week, he was on the field for 33% of snaps. He had 7 rushing attempts for 54 yards and 2 receptions on 2 targets for 13 yards. That's 7.7 fantasy points in half-point PPR. That's not bad. That's flex worthy. In a really not great game, in a game where Kyle Pitts did not do so well. And then this week, he's got 7 rushing attempts for 11 yards, 1 touchdown, and 5 receptions on 6 targets and a receiving touchdown. So I think they're going to use him fairly, like in a versatile way that we've seen a lot of teams use Cordero Patterson in. And I think that he's absolutely flex worthy depending on the matchup going forward.
Yep, like JL said, they're drawing up plays for him. I watched a lot of this game today. And in the red zone, he was the running back that was in the backfield. And then that's the receiving touchdown he had. It was a broken play, and he was actually blocking. And then he saw the play was breaking. He rolled out to the flat, and Matt Ryan just dumped it over to him. So that's the type of plays that you get the trust, get that relationship going with him and Matt Ryan. And I think they're going to continue to get him more involved because Mike Davis has looked okay, but he's a bruiser. He's not a big playmaker. So they need something in this offense, and Patterson could be it.
Yep.
Guys, Craig wants to know, important fantasy football question. Do I need to retire after these 2 terrible weeks? No, but you are on notice. Yep. You're on notice. One more terrible week, Craig, and you're going to be forced to retire.
We're going to put you on a performance improvement plan, a PIP.
Yeah.
As long as you're having a good time, keep playing.
Keep playing, man. It's all about having fun.
It's all about
fantasy is about having fun. Sometimes we forget that, but it is about having fun for sure.
That's supposed to be fun. I'm not having fun this week.
Real fast on the Cordell Patterson discussion is, yes, we've seen teams use him like this before. How often has it been fantasy relevant? Don't get me wrong. I think this is his best opportunity he's had in a long time. I want him on my teams, but I am still nervous about just throwing him in my lineup on a weekly basis.
Completely agree with Josh. I'm not saying, must start flex option here every week. More so, that he's worth consideration as a dart throw.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll take it a step further than that. I don't know if he's worth a consideration as a dart throw, but I think he's going to have probably 3 to 4 receptions for 30 yards a week. And if you need something in your flex, that's 6 to 7 fantasy points. Like, that's not a ton, but then there's the upside for the additional touchdown, right? Like, he is someone you can put into your flex, I think, without fear of getting goosed from him based on how Atlanta has used him so far. So I'm fine with it. There's one more player, guys, that I want to talk about. I think we'll get to Tony Pollard during the break, but we should probably talk a little bit about Rondale Moore in this Arizona offense. We were all hyped about the Arizona offense last week. It looked so great. Still looking pretty good this week, but Rondale Moore stepped up big time with 7 receptions, 114 yards, 8 targets, and a touchdown. Now, AJ Green did have a touchdown as well, but Christian Kirk wasn't as involved this week as he was last week. Rondale Moore took a step forward. So who's the second wide receiver to have in that offense? Are you buying into Rondale Moore rest of the season? Do you think the rookie is going to get more involved, or is Christian Kirk the number 2?
Listen, guys,
I like them both.
Rondale Moore. It's Rondale Moore season.
Yeah, it's going to be Rondale Moore for me as well, because he's got that explosiveness. You know, he took what was like a 70-something yard touchdown to the house today. He's getting more involved. The one thing we said last week, even though Christian Kirk had the 2 touchdowns, they both had the same amount of targets.
Yep.
And, give me Rondale Moore's explosiveness.
And Rondale Moore was only on the field for 12 plays last week.
That's just nuts. So
or maybe 12 routes. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. But yeah, I completely agree with you guys. Rondale Moore has that explosiveness that Christian Kirk doesn't have. Jay, you said it perfectly. Exactly what I was going to say. They had the same amount of targets last week. This week, it just came together for Rondale Moore, and that was in his first game ever in the NFL. I have to imagine his usage is just going to go up. This doesn't concern me for DeAndre Hopkins at all. He's going to get his. Nobody on that team is eating into his targets, but give me Rondale Moore rest of the season over Christian Kirk. I think he's the option you want on that team.
Timeout. I think Rondale Moore will eat into DeAndre Hopkins' targets, actually.
You do? Okay.
I listen up. Like Jay said it, like they got him involved deep. They got him involved short. They got him involved in all areas of the football field. They got him the ball quick, and he looked electric once he got the ball in his hand. I think they're going to just continue to try to get him more and more involved in the offense. I'm not worried for DeAndre Hopkins. I was just trying to make a statement here, but
just trying to get the shock value.
Rondale Moore's a rookie that could have a really good season, in my opinion. I'm serious.
I guess you're not saying this is cause for concern for DeAndre Hopkins, but it might tap his ceiling a little bit this season. Like maybe Rondale Moore takes away some of that like super elite high end upside.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
maybe a little bit. Okay, guys, if you guys are ready, I think we should jump into our game-by-game breakdown to this point. We'll run through each game, hit the highlights of what happened, any fantasy-relevant news, and then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about this Sunday Night Football matchup. Maria in here, guys, the like and subscribe, please, are in the chat. So if you have not liked this video and subscribed to FanDuel on YouTube, Maria's going to come get you, and she's pretty scary, so watch out. Pretty terrifying. Okay, let me pull up this next game, guys.
While we're pulling it up, Dallas just kicked a field goal to win the game, and then Minnesota missed a field goal, like a 20-something yarder to win the game.
Man.
Missed a field goal to win the game?
Missed the field goal to win the game. Missed
How
the
does that
field
work?
goal that would win them the game.
That would have won them the game.
Yes.
No, they missed the field goal to win the game. Whenever they won by missing the field goal.
How does that work?
Their kicker is now Dynasty wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Dynasty wide receiver 1.
Okay, guys, the first game we need to talk about today is this New England Patriots against the New York Jets. There's one very obvious thing that we need to address right away, and that is Zach Wilson's 4 interceptions in this game.
Oh, boy.
Now, we were expecting a much improved Patriots defense this year compared to last year with the players they had coming back. Bill Belichick is known for giving rookie quarterbacks fits. And Zach Wilson is on the Jets with Jameson Crowder out as well. So I know he was out last week. Are you guys super concerned about Zach Wilson rest of the season? He's someone you're not starting at all, or do you think this was just a really difficult game for him, given the factors listed?
Well, Bill Belichick's always had a good history against rookie quarterbacks.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's one thing. Plus it's a divisional game. We knew the Patriots, defense was going to be much improved this year. The only place that you are really starting Zach Wilson anyways would be as a QB2 in a super flex league. And like we talked about last week, garbage points still count. Garbage time points still count. So I'm still comfortable starting him as in the right matchups as a QB2 super flex. And Simon, you mentioned this earlier today when we were watching the games. I think now is a perfect time to try to shoot an offer out there for it in dynasty leagues. So I'm not worried about him long-term whatsoever.
I completely agree with you. I liked what I saw from Zach Wilson in the preseason. As a prospect, I liked him. These have been a not great first 2 weeks. Obviously, this week is very, very rough, but I agree with you, Jay. He's a matchup-dependent QB2 in super flex leagues for me. And he's a guy that in the right matchup, you might be able to get a value on in your DFS lineups as well if he's got a good defensive matchup over there. Let's see, who do they have coming up? They've got the Broncos next week. So they've got Denver coming up next week. So that's going to be a better time for him than the Patriots, obviously, but not a superb matchup either.
Still not great. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say not great for him either.
And Tennessee, then Atlanta. So those are not as bad.
Those are two great ones. Yeah.
I'm Tennessee worried about starting him even in super flex leagues a little bit,
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Against Atlanta, I think you can start any quarterback.
Against Atlanta, absolutely.
So far.
Absolutely.
So 2 weeks, mark it down, put Zach Wilson in your lineups, put him in DFS because they're going up against Atlanta. And man, do I just want every quarterback that goes against him. The number one fantasy point scorer, according to FanDuel scoring for the Jets this week, was Braxton Berrios with 7 receptions and 73 receiving yards, as we all predicted. Braxton Berrios, any interest in him going forward, or is this just a product of the injuries in the game script?
Yeah, I'm not interested. No, thank you.
You're not. No.
Thanks, but no thanks.
I will tell you this. I think we're all buying into Corey Davis though, as like being this like pretty good receiver. I know Zach Wilson had a horrific game, and the Patriots are good at taking away the best weapon. I think Corey Davis will see better games in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely. That's a really great point. Yeah. I think they shut him down this week.
Yeah.
Jameson Crowder was listed out for this game. I just want to remind everyone, he is a great possession receiver. He's a really good volume receiver. I find it hard to believe that he's not going to be involved whenever he comes back healthy. So if he's playing next week, I'd be willing to start him the first week he's back in that offense. Jameson Crowder. Now, Josh, I wanted to come to you first on this one. There were 2 New England running backs. One that obviously we're very excited about, but then another one that I know you've been hyped about all offseason, and he showed some serious promise today. So Damien Harris, 16 carries, 62 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Were you encouraged from what you saw from Damien Harris today?
Absolutely, because, we heard reports that he was going to be in the doghouse a bit because of that fumble at the end of the game last week. And last week he had 100 rushing yards. Now he's really just not going to be very involved in the passing game, which I was hoping to see a little bit of improvement in that regard. But James White, he's also a very startable fantasy asset. I think both these running backs are going to be startable going forward because you got Mac Jones as the quarterback back there. He's going to be the king of dinks and dunks. He's very accurate. He can get the players the ball, but it's going to be a lot of short area stuff, which is going to help James White, especially in a PPR league. But I think both these running backs are startable. I love Damien Harris. I think he's going to be one of the leading rushing leaders this year in all of the NFL, actually.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And some of his runs today, his touchdown run that he had, oh my God, that was tough as nails. The amount of tackles that just bounced off of him that he broke, and then the final push at the end. I was so impressed by that. And that, you know what, Josh, that was what made me buy in. I'm in now, rest of the season. Damien Harris looks legit. Now there was another Patriots running back. I think this is the last player from this game we really need to talk about. James White doing what James White does. I don't know what else there is to say about this player. He comes in and he's going to have these games. He didn't make his money in the rushing game, even though he had a rushing touchdown. It's all about the receiving work for him. 6 receptions, 45 yards. That's 10.5 points. But then he got that rushing touchdown in there as well. I think James White is a flex option this rest of this year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to put him in my flex.
Yeah, there's a chance that he disappears a little bit here in the probably middle of the season, but so far, first 2 weeks, I'm pretty confident I'm gonna roll with what we got. So I'm happy rolling with James White in your lineup.
Yeah, I am as well. Guys, before we move on to the next game, are there any more players or storylines from this game that you guys want to address? Anything pressing that needs to be talked about?
Oh, well, actually, one thing, Michael Carter looks like I mean, Ty Johnson got as many carries, but Michael Carter was much more efficient, got some catches. He might be running away with the starting running back job in New York, and I think we got to keep an eye on this because he was a hyped-up rookie throughout the offseason.
And speaking of hyped-up rookies, Elijah Moore really hasn't done a whole lot either. Everybody was on him in the preseason, so he might be one that you need to pump the brakes on just a little bit. With Crowder out, you would hope that he would be able to do something with those targets, but just I'm fine cutting him in any fantasy league.
Yeah, completely agree. We got JL's mom in here saying FanDuel FYF, best partnership ever. We have to agree. And JFU saying we got a close Tennessee-Seattle game here coming down to the wire. There's 28 seconds left in this game, it looks like. But my stream has also been behind quite a bit. So it might be over by now, and I just don't know. Craig in here saying Jameson is also my son's name. So everyone pick up Jameson Crowder in Dynasty.
Former Blue Devil as well. So just had to throw that in there.
Derrick Henry touchdown. Derrick Henry touchdown.
Oh, mama.
It's not tied up yet. They still have to hit the PAT or go for 2. Who knows? They're in Seattle. So if there's a time to go for 2, having Derrick Henry, I don't know.
And if anybody's going to do it, it's Vrabel. He'd be the guy to do that.
Yeah, I know. So we'll see. I want to keep an eye on that, guys. Let's go, Albert. Yep. Let's go.
Albert,
I love football. I love football. All right.
Welcome in, Albert. Glad to have you in here talking some football with us this Sunday evening. And Kev saying, sup, Jor? He's fishing. He just wants everyone to say hi to him. Everyone say hi to Kev if you haven't already.
Hey, Kev.
Guys, Kev. The next game we're going to be talking about is this Raiders-Steelers game. Josh, I want to come to you first. Are there any players from this game that just really stood out to you that we need to talk about? Ones that were disappointing or kind of showed up on another level?
Absolutely. It's a mixture of Derek Carr and Henry Ruggs. Derek Carr just put together another great game against a really good defense. I think maybe we were underrating him a little bit from a fantasy perspective. I think he has the potential to put up really big points. And then Henry Ruggs, man, he had that one really long touchdown that really made his week a lot, but 7 targets, 5 receptions, much more involved than week 1, had a much better game than even Darren Waller, who we all love. So Henry Ruggs going forward, he's got the upside.
Yeah. 817 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 wins from Derek Carr so far. I think if they can keep this pace up, that's looking pretty good for Derek Carr this season. John Luke, are you buying into Derek Carr? Do you think he's a startable asset going forward, or do you think this was just 2 good game scripts for him?
No, I mean, I think we have been, propping up a little bit in the offseason. Derek Carr, I feel like, has been probably higher. The fantasy community in general has been higher on him, probably coming into this season more so than the last 3 or 4 seasons. And I certainly didn't expect the last 2 games from Derek Carr. I don't know if I'm going to expect that going forward. I think Derek Carr is most likely going to be a high-end QB2 on the end of the season. That's my projection, but I don't know. They've looked good so far. They've been able to pull together games that you didn't think that they were going to be able to pull together. So I'm excited going forward. Did Bryan Edwards, did that touchdown end up standing? I can't remember.
No, did not. No, I was just looking that up. No, so he 3 catches for 40 yards.
Yep. So that's interesting. I think Ruggs and Edwards are both it's most likely going to oscillate like this, back and forth, where we're going to have one of them's going to have a big week, one of them's going to have just an okay week, and you're not going to necessarily know.
I agree with you on that point, Chael.
But something we did say last weekend was Hunter Renfrow is most likely going to be a stable option in this offense. He held up.
Look at it again.
He held up.
5 catches, 57 yards. Such
nothing spectacular. Yeah, nothing spectacular. That's an accountant line right there.
But you can put that accountant in your lineup if you need 8 points. If you need 8 points, Hunter Renfrow is just about as close to a guarantee to get you those as you can get. Guys, the one thing I wanted to say about Derek Carr going forward was the one thing that gives me a little bit of hope that this might be like the new normal for them is based on like their draft moves, their free agent signings. This looks like the offense they've been trying to build. They've been trying to get going, taking Bryan Edwards, taking Henry Ruggs. It finally feels like these pieces are coming together in the way that they planned. So I have a little bit more optimism around this offense than maybe just, this was a good 2 games. They're going to regress back down to the mean. Just because it looks like it's going according to plan. On the Pitt side of the
Wait, before we go on, can we talk about Waller a little bit?
Yeah,
I'm not too concerned or anything. 5 catches for 65 yards from a tight end.
Yeah, I think that's lower than what most of you were expecting after 19 targets in week 1. What do you guys think what is going to be the normal for Darren Waller this season? Is it going to be
somewhere between the two.
Yeah,
I think this is near his floor. Yeah, I think this is near his floor, but we're going to get games with like 13, 14, 15 points, and you're going to be very happy with that. Yeah. Last week was an anomaly with the amount of targets he got. Yeah. But I'm not concerned after a 9.5 receptions, 65 yards. Sign me up for a tight end that's getting that. That's fine.
Yeah, like you said, Simon, if that's the floor at the tight end position, you are more than happy. Double digits at the tight end position in fantasy, you're golden.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, it's a great point.
We got Ed in here saying Henry Ruggs is still running on that field.
What
the
up,
yards
Ed?
after catch, man. He is still running.
The Yak Man.
The Yak Man. Guys, on the Pittsburgh side of the ball now, for me, the biggest storyline that we need to talk about is Najee Harris bouncing back after a disappointing week 1 for fantasy owners. JL, you called it, so maybe you know what? We're gonna skip you, Jay. Sorry,
I'm used to it.
We're gonna go to JL. JL, are you expecting closer to this rest of the season than you were week 1, even with the offensive line struggles that the Steelers had?
Yeah, we mentioned it on last week's Sunday recap from week 1. I think that Najee Harris is just getting comfortable in that offense. The offensive line is just as bad as advertised, so I'm not too worried about it. I think Najee Harris is going to have games like this going forward. And like almost all fantasy running backs, will have some duds, but at this point, I think we can safely put Najee Harris in that RB1 bucket.
Yep, he's a back end RB1, high end RB2 in my mind, but pretty safely in that category. I do still have worries about this offensive line. Jay, what do you think about Najee Harris going forward?
I'm still all in. I was saying at the beginning of the season, I think he's going to be borderline running back 1 based on volume. We've seen a lot of talented running backs with bad offensive lines. They get the volume. They're able to produce numbers. Excuse me. I think it's only a matter of time before he starts blowing up. Give me all the Harris.
All the Harris.
All the Harris. And then we've got the 3 receivers here, Dante Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool. I have a feeling in my mind this is just going to be receiver roulette all season with starting these guys.
Dante Johnson get hurt, though, at the end of the game. I was trying to look up to see if I got any update on the injury, but he has a knee injury. So if he's out, that changes things.
It does. In my mind, that bumps up Juju Smith-Schuster more than it does Chase Claypool. It bumps up Juju a lot. Claypool's still probably going to play that same role in the offense, whether Deontay's in there or not. But if Deontay's out for sure, watch out for Juju next week.
It bumps up Najee, Juju, and Chase for me, honestly. I think that all those 13 targets for Dante Johnson. He was this target machine, and those get just kind of split up between all of them a little bit, but mostly Juju.
Mostly Juju.
And even though Claypool has started off the season a little slow, he did have 9 targets today. So yeah, I think just be patient with him. It's another guy that he was never going to be the guy to get the most targets in this offense. He's going to be the guy to make those big plays. He'll definitely get plenty of red zone looks. Don't worry about Claypool. He'll be just fine.
100% second what Jay said.
He's going to be a higher variance player than the other two, but he's still got that upside. That's what you were signing up for when you were drafting Claypool. Exactly. Anything else about this game, guys, before we move on to our next one?
No. Summed it up.
We are moving on to the Rams versus the Indianapolis Colts. Max, and what about Antonio Brown? We're getting there, Max. We'll talk about him a little bit. He's not on the Rams.
We're going to see. Tampa Bay, we're going to see this rotation between all these receiving options. Just to give you some lead into that.
Mike Evans disappointed people last week. Antonio Brown disappointed people this week. I'm convinced all of them are going to disappoint, except maybe Gronk. He's looked unstoppable so far.
And
Gronk
he's a tight end, so lower expectations, right?
Yep.
Jack in the box saying Derrick Henry with 44 points. That is a bounce back, guys. That's the definition of a bounce back game. Yes. You can put those worries to rest with King Henry over there.
Yeah, we said last week too. That Arizona offense is stout. So I'm not worried at all.
Always bet against the week 1 overreactions.
Yep, completely agree. And speaking of week 1 overreactions, I believe Zach Pascal was our dynasty wide receiver 1 after his 2 touchdown game last week. But he actually performed a little bit this week. Like, he wasn't irrelevant. 5 receptions, 38 receiving yards, and another touchdown for 12.3 fantasy points.
I'd say that's still good enough for dynasty wide receiver 1, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
We're going to overtime in Seattle.
Yeah.
because I wanted to talk about Pittman a little bit here. He was more involved in the offense. He seemed like more of a centerpiece. Pittman with 8 receptions, 123 receiving yards, no receiving touchdowns, but he still outscored Pascal. Are we all in on Pittman being the wide receiver roster going forward in this offense? It's not Pascal, right?
It's Pittman.
Yeah, it's definitely Pittman. Him and Wentz were definitely building a rapport. Wentz, we don't know if he's going to play next week or not. He rolled his ankle, a pretty nasty looking tackle. But they definitely, it seemed to be like he was becoming Wentz's go-to guy. Wentz likes, like you said, Josh, Wentz likes to make Wentz plays. And when he starts to scramble, he has that guy that he looks for. And that was Pittman all day long.
It was. I said it like 3 different times. I'm like, Wentz just made a Wentz play where it's really dumb. And sometimes it works, but like, he's just like almost tackle. He's like, oh, maybe this will work. And sometimes it works. A lot of times it doesn't, but it will lead to a lot of opportunities for Michael Pittman going forward. And I think we have to remember that Carson Wentz, he had this COVID scare. He wasn't practicing a lot going into the season. So week 1, I don't think was the best representation of what their chemistry could be. And I think we kind of saw more of that today.
Now, do we have any updated news on Carson Wentz's injury?
Yeah.
Because he got rolled up on. He landed weirdly with his leg and then got rolled up on. It didn't look great. And then he was out, and I think Jacob Eason finished the game. Do we have any news on that?
I'm not a doctor, but
you're not.
He was out there like walking around, kind of like it looked like
limpy, a little limpy. Yeah.
Like but he was out there, just rooting for his team at the end. So I'm not a doctor, and this means nothing. But
hey, Josh, are you a doctor?
Fremulon.
I'm not a doctor, actually, but
not the medical kind.
I'm encouraged by that. Let's put it that way.
But he's got his degree behind him, so
that's my degree. Doctorate. Don't
doctor
zoom
in fantasy.
Dr.
Foster
in streaming. Doctorate and talking out of his ass is what Josh has got.
One guy I do want to touch on real quick if we're moving on. Nyheim Hines really disappointed. He led the team in targets last week. This week, he 2.7 points. Depending on your league, on the very last play when they were doing a bunch of laterals and stuff, he was the last guy to wind up with the ball, so he got like an extra 1.5 points in some leagues, mine being that league, because I started Hines this week. That's why I know he was disappointing, because he hurt my soul today. But it just goes to show, like we talked about, week to week, game plan to game plan, it's going to change. So, even through 2 weeks, just don't overreact. Don't assume what's happened so far is what's going to happen the rest of the season.
Especially with these receiving backs, the game script affects their output so much. We saw it with J.D. McKissick on Thursday. We're seeing it with Nyheim Hines now. They're going to have these huge games. These guys that are almost purely receiving backs are going to have these huge games, but they're also going to have games where they just disappear. It's going to happen. So you're taking that risk whenever you throw them in your lineup. But the upside with these receiving backs like Nyheim Hines, J.D. McKissick is through the roof. I completely agree with you there, Jay. Super disappointing week this week, though. We already touched on Kupp quite a bit. So are there any other Rams players you guys want to talk about in this offense?
Darrell Henderson got banged up. I don't know if he got back into the game. So
he did not. I'm pretty sure he did not.
Sony Michel could be the guy. So, yeah, he was looking really good. But the same thing, Henderson's been the guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy in his career. So it could be Michel's backfield.
Sony Michel. Man.
Yeah, Darrell Henderson had a rib injury, and I do not believe he returned. And if it's just Sony Michel there, he's going to be useful for fantasy. He's not really going to be a pass catcher, I don't think, where Darrell Henderson does kind of thrive in that role. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a rotation with Sony Michel leading it.
Does anyone else like this season specifically get so thrown off by all the new teams? Like things are still weirding me out. Like Sony Michel and Matthew Stafford on the Rams. There's just Carson Wentz on the Colts. There's so many players where I'm just looking at it and it just looks wrong whenever I see them in that jersey.
I understand what you're saying.
This game's a perfect example of it. There's 3 players in this game where I'm just like wrong jersey, wrong jersey, wrong jersey. but I guess it works. And speaking of that, Matthew Stafford works a lot better in this wrong jersey than he did in the right one.
Oh, man.
Speaking on what Ryan said, they gave him a decent O-line and multiple weapons, and suddenly Stafford's back, man.
You give Stafford a good team and he's good. Who would have guessed? The Lions couldn't figure it out for like 12
years. Lions are holding him back. We've been saying it. Been saying it all off season.
I mean, outside of Calvin Johnson, yes, you're absolutely correct.
Guys, we are going to move on to this monstrosity of a game. We were all excited to watch the New Orleans Saints after they dismantled the Packers last weekend, yet they come out here and completely bomb against the Panthers. Like, just a humiliating performance for them in my mind. It was absolutely awful. And Jack in the Box, man, I hope so. That would be so much fun if Henry can grab another TD.
They literally they're handing it to him right now as I'm watching. As we talk,
Henry's going to get work. If the Titans are on offense, Henry's going to get work.
Yeah. We'll see how much. OT, maybe they're going to pass a little bit more, but they'll still get some work.
We'll see. Also, welcome in, Proper Richie. Glad to have you here. Loving the FanDuel love. And Maria said, week 1 fantasy, all good. Week 2 fantasy.
I feel a little bit more
how
like
I feel, Maria. Thank you.
Week 1 was all good. Week 2,
it's trending down.
Okay, guys, this Saints-Panthers game, the very first thing that stood out to me was Jameis Winston, obviously. After that 5-touchdown game, he comes in here, puts up 10.34 fantasy points, and let's put it in FanDuel scoring. So FanDuel, 10.34 fantasy points. He had 111 passing yards, 19 rush yards. It was the rushing touchdown that saved his fantasy day from being completely catastrophic. Do you have any concerns about Jameis Winston going forward after this game, or is this just Jameis doing Jameis and we're going to have more 5-touchdown games and more games like this?
It looked a whole lot like Jameis, like looking like his old, in old form, old Jameis form. Like
he had that look on his face.
Yeah, he was like, he's being half tackled and he's just throwing it up into triple coverage. It's, not great. I think you're definitely going to have these games going forward where he just tilts, because I think that's partially who he is. But at the same time, I hope the Saints don't continue to have, play such a poor game.
They need more pass catching weapons, man.
They do.
They need Michael Thomas or something. I mean, Alvin Kamara is great. Don't get me wrong, but you can take a running back out of the game, or you can at least limit his ability to be really productive, like we just saw with Carolina here, right? So Jameis, he doesn't have much in terms of pass catching weapons, and we already know he's not the most reliable option at quarterback. So I am concerned for Jameis going forward.
Yeah, I'm extremely concerned. Okay, Simon.
Oh, I was just going to say, speaking of more pass catching weapons, there was only 2 players, Alvin Kamara and Marquez Callaway, were the only players with more than a single reception in this game right here. Every other player just had 1 reception. And Marquez Callaway had 2.
I think JJ Zacharyson tweeted out halfway through the game, Marquez Callaway has 2 receptions so far in 2021, and he finished now. He has 3 receptions. So on the year,
impressive.
Marquez Callaway, he increased by 33%.
Well, that leads into what I was going to say, Simon. Everybody was excited with the 5 touchdowns last week, but I didn't buy it because they didn't air the ball out. He only had 20 attempts last week, only had 22 this week, less than 150 passing yards in both weeks. He's crazy. I think the 5 touchdowns was a fluke. And another guy last week, Juwan Johnson, everybody was going crazy over because he had those 2 touchdowns, but he had almost the exact same stat line, but didn't have the touchdowns this week. 3 targets, he had 1 catch and 0 touchdowns. So it's just another example of you have to read more than just the box score and look into actually what's going on in the game, not look at those final fantasy points to see what the true story is.
Or at the very least, read the whole box score. Don't just look at the touchdowns. Because the 150 passing yards with 5 touchdowns should set off alarms in your head that something was weird about that.
Yeah, and his stat line was very similar this week.
It was almost identical.
Minus touchdowns. So it's such a great point.
Turn those touchdowns into interceptions, and that's more.
That's basically what
you know what, Josh? That's the Jameis Winston special.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's like,
want to see me turn this touchdown into an interception? Whoa.
I got you. Hold my beer.
A magic trick.
God, out of everyone in the NFL to be a closet magician, it's got to be Jameis Winston, right? It's got to be.
Is this your card? No, Jameis.
No, Jameis.
No, Jameis.
Damn it!
Without a doubt, it's not your card. 100% of the time.
Jason gets roped into playing that game every single day in the locker room. It's leave me alone, Jameis.
No, I got it this time.
I swear, I've been practicing.
Then he knocks over his bag and all the fake cards fall out of the bag.
Whenever Jameis gets sacked, he pulls a quarter out from behind the defender's ear. He just
in the dog pile.
In the dog pile, he's
at the bottom.
Aha!
Look what I found.
We just need points for magic trick leagues. PBMT, and then Jameis will be the 101 because I know he's doing some magic.
God, this has to be
okay.
I hate you guys.
Now that we're done talking about Jameis Winston as a magician, I'm saying we're done. Alvin Kamara, is there any cause for concern based on this line? I know the offense as a whole was stagnant because of Jameis Winston. Are you guys worried about Alvin Kamara going forward, or is he still that elite fantasy running back that you can start every single week for you guys?
No worries.
No worries for me either.
He's going to get his catches. He's going to get more yards, and as long as he falls into the end zone, which he will,
he had
7 targets.
Okay, so then yeah, he's going to have better.
No worries.
I'm not worried about him in terms of like he's not going to have great games, but I think his upside is somewhat limited in this offense. Yeah, if they're if they can't move, then that's going to of course limit his upside.
Right. Yeah. There was talks of him being the running back 2 behind Christian McCaffrey. I think you make a great point, JL. If this offense isn't the Saints offense of old, this explosive offense putting up, 40 points a game, then yeah, I think his ceiling.
Maybe he's like RB8 instead of RB2. You know what I mean? Like, or RB6. I don't know.
That's the difference.
It is a big difference. I do believe in his talent though. And I think that's what you guys are speaking on here.
And the only thing I wanted to add was, Jay, you made a point earlier, or maybe it was Josh. I can't remember.
They need more receiving options. I made it. So.
Okay, Jay made it for sure then. I think Michael Thomas coming back is going to help this offense.
That was me!
Immensely if he's able to get back healthily. So if Michael Thomas comes back and he's looking good, I think that benefits Alvin Kamara. The offense moving, having Michael Thomas back, I'm not worried about him taking receiving work from him. I think it'll just make a more efficient offense and will be a positive for Kamara going forward. On to the Panthers side of the ball over here, guys. Christian McCaffrey, we don't even need to talk about him. Start him, put him in your lineup. You can pay up in FanDuel for him, build your lineup around him. He is a stud, and he's going to be a stud almost every single week.
He was the running back 1 for a little while there until Derrick Henry was like, no, mine.
Yeah, Derrick Henry came in and stole it. Outside of Christian McCaffrey, the player that I wanted to talk about most on this team was Robbie Anderson. This is 2 kind of disappointing weeks in a row for Robbie Anderson. 3 receptions, 38 yards this week. Last week wasn't very good either. In this new Panthers offense, are you guys worried about Robbie Anderson going forward? Is he the third man out? Is he no longer involved?
And real fast, I just got a notification that Dalvin Cook does have an ankle sprain. Just wanted to announce that.
Okay. Well, I will say when it comes, comes to Robbie Anderson, I think Terrace Marshall is really digging into his value. Last week, Terrace Marshall had 6 targets to Robbie Anderson's 3. They flip-flopped, but I just saw what Maria just said.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Maria, if you're looking for fantasy football magician content, we're the only channel that provides it.
Which NFL player is the most likely closet magician? We got
that should be a bracket we do. Most likely closet magician NFL player.
Let's do it this week.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jameis Winston.
Is it weird that like the other quarterback on the Saints, I feel like could be a magician too?
Taysom Hill.
Is that weird?
I feel like he's more like a David Copperfield or like a David Blaine. Okay. No, Taysom Hill is Chris Angel, mind freak. Taysom Hill, mind freak.
I'm imagining that like James is this your card? And Taysom's like, no. Is this your card? No. Is this your card? No.
Taysom would be
all right, Simon said we were done.
Development.
Yes, Simon said no more.
Tim said Kirk Cousins is easily a magician. Guys, we're going to spend
Yes.
Honestly, we didn't mention the's a guy with a nickname, Fitzmagic.
That's true. That's true.
Jack in the Box.
That's too obvious, though.
Yeah, it's too on the nose.
It's a little-known fact. That's actually how they decided who the starting quarterback was for the Saints.
Jay and Josh was saying Terrace Marshall was eating into Robbie Anderson.
Yeah,
so
I was saying that
point.
This offense is 1, it's going to go through Christian McCaffrey. 2, it's going to be DJ Moore. And last year, Terrace Marshall wasn't there, so Anderson was the easy option number 3. Now with Marshall there, I think it's going to be those guys battling each week, eating into each other's value. And I think it's really going to be hard to put either one of those into your starting lineup with any kind of confidence.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was excited about Terrace Marshall, but after watching these first 2 games, I'm still excited long-term. Dynasty, hold on, but I'm not putting him in any DFS lineups, redraft lineups for the time being until I see something different. It looks like him and Robbie Anderson are just going to be killing each other all season.
And I did want to say I could definitely see Sam Darnold could definitely be a magician.
even in redraft for Robbie Anderson, though, I am concerned putting him in my lineup. Just so you guys know.
You're hoping for a long touchdown at this point.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Josh. I think that you can't really rely on his volume at this point with CMC back. And I played Terrace Marshall in our friendly little private DFS or FanDuel contest this week, and just didn't go well. I thought he'd get enough receptions, the short yardage receptions, to make it worth it, but it's not the time.
Who ended up winning that? Oh my God. I was in last all day. And then Mr. Derrick Henry put me over the top to beat you guys by a whole lot. So Derrick Henry won me the week.
Josh came in last, but
garbage.
Josh did come in last.
I was busy this morning. I wasn't able to join it.
How did you or did you not score the least amount of points out of any of us?
Who won last week?
That's not what I asked.
Classic. This is garbage.
All right, let's move on.
We're on to the next game, guys. We are on to the 49ers-Eagles game here. One talking point I wanted to bring up in this game was Jalen Hurts. You look at his fantasy score, and it actually looks pretty good. And I like Jalen Hurts in fantasy going forward. But something I wanted to point out is the only reason Jalen Hurts had a good fantasy game is because of the rushing cheat code. He got 82 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, and that is the only thing propping him up. Less than 200 passing yards is not a good game for a quarterback, but this is a quarterback that week in, week out is going to get that kind of rushing yards. So if anything, this shows me you can start Jalen Hurts every single week. It doesn't matter. Even when he has a horrible passing game, he's going to be just fine because he's going to get 50 to 100 rushing yards, maybe a touchdown on top of that, and you're going to be good to go. Are any of you guys concerned about Jalen Hurts?
You said everything I would have said.
Yep. He's got a safe floor. That's
you summed it up.
Yeah.
And then Brandon Ayuk, does anybody want to touch on that man getting his first action this week? He had one reception for 6 yards. Are we sounding the alarm bells yet?
No, I mean, Deebo Samuel had another hell of a game. So I don't know where, Deebo Samuel's looks like the main guy on this offense from a receiving perspective. Even over
Kittle didn't do anything either.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sounding the alarm.
That I find joy in the entire fantasy community being wrong about something. Like, I was wrong as well on Brandon Ayuk, but 99% of people had Brandon Ayuk over Deebo. And I just love it when a player says, you're wrong. Yeah. Deebo came out here and said, no, I'm really great. And you guys were wrong. I think that's awesome. So I'm excited for Deebo, even though I was high on Brandon Ayuk coming into this season. It's a fun time for Deebo right there.
Now, listen, I was drafting Brandon Ayuk over Deebo, but I was not high on Ayuk necessarily.
Yeah, Josh was sounding the alarm before it was cool. I would say Ayuk is a wait and see for me with the hamstring issue. I'm just waiting and seeing and hoping that he's going to get more involved. Those soft tissue issues, those injuries, they tend to linger, and we're seeing that Shanahan is just limiting him. His involvement in this offense while he recovers from that. So he's a wait and see for me. I'm not dropping him. Don't cut him.
No, don't cut him.
Just holding on. I'm not starting him either until I see it. And in maybe 2 weeks or so, if we're still not seeing anything, it might make sense.
Well, one thing too, we're eventually going to see a quarterback change on this team. So who knows if Trey Lance, Ayuk is the guy that Trey Lance locks onto. So
great point. Really great.
I love Trey Lance. I'm so excited for that day. I can't wait. Jimmy G's so handsome, but Trey Lance is he's got a sparkle in his eye. He's just so I love that dude. Anthony's in here. What's up, Anthony? Welcome in. And I totally get it. What a game to watch the finish of. Jack in the Box brings up a point that we need to address. Kittle disappointed me, and Kittle wasn't great last week either. This is 2 disappointing weeks in a row from George Kittle. Is this are we concerned about Kittle going forward for the rest of the season?
No, this is what Kittle does. He's not necessarily that consistent when it comes to being one of these top tight ends, but he has these blow-up games where he goes for 30, 40 points, something like that. So this is kind of his MO, 4 targets this week, 5 targets last week. He's going to blow up. It's only a matter of time.
I'm not very nervous about Kittle. I mean, I'm nervous. It sucks to see this. Knowing this information now, I wouldn't have drafted him as high, prior to the season. Now knowing how he's performed, but I still think, like Jay said, I think the blow up weeks are coming. I'm not that nervous.
Completely agree with these guys.
But I will say real fast that, you might say that Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance is going to be the starter eventually. I mean, the 49ers are 2-0. That's the only reason I'm going to say, like, maybe they stick with Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the quarterback as long as they're winning, in my opinion. At least.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree with that, Josh. I think once we start to see some pressure, there's some losses, and that pressure starts to get on, Shanahan for putting your third pick overall to start, then we'll start to see a change. Otherwise, they're probably going to just stick with what works. Same as Alex Smith when Mahomes, was a rookie.
Yeah, absolutely. And then something else we have to mention, I think, real fast is Trey Sermon. You can drop him. Got a concussion, and he did not.
Oh, he did. It was a concussion.
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, he got hit like 3 times in the head before he hit the ground. The ground was one of the hits, but three bad hits in the head. I really hope that he's all right. That looked very painful.
I would hold off on dropping him. I would say he's definitely somebody you need to not start by any means if he's coming back, but Elijah Mitchell didn't look that great, and Raheem Mostert's out for the season. Jeff Wilson's coming back, but if you have the space, I wouldn't mind stashing him at the end of your bench. If before, we're not at bye weeks yet, so not having to worry about starting players for your buys. So I would hold on to Sermon if possible.
And I'm not saying just drop him for anything, but like JaMychal Hasty, what scares me the most, he looked like he could be the receiving back for that team, the third down back as well. So JaMychal Hasty.
Anthony says, do not drop Sermon. Anthony agrees with you, Jay. I agree with Josh. I think he's droppable if there's someone on the waiver wire that you want.
Yeah, if there's
I'm worried about, I mean, just looking at this game, I'm worried about how they're going to split up RB carries whenever Sermon comes back. I don't think he's going to jump in and get the full workload. I think we're going to see a true RBBC here. And if there's a week with a ball carrier taking the lead, it's going to be hard to predict in my mind. So that's where I'm standing on Sermon. Guys, the other team in this game, we talked about the Philadelphia Eagles a little bit. Quez Watkins was the superstar of the first drive for the Eagles last week, 3 receptions, then disappeared. And this week he had a bomb touchdown. Is this another one of those players? We were talking about players earlier that were that long bomb threat that you could put in, hoping that they get a touchdown. Is this one of those guys, Quez Watkins? Is he a home run shot on the waiver wire, or just no interest whatsoever?
In a normal redraft league, I'm not interested, but if plugging into my FanDuel DFS lineup, yes, he does have that long bomb, like blowout week potential. I think the real highlight here is Devontae Smith, who didn't really produce after a really great week 1, but still got 7 targets. I still am confident in him going forward to plug in my lineup.
Me too. I'm glad you brought that up, Josh. We can have confidence. Oh, that was my bad over there.
Get an instant bonus up to $500.
Get an instant bonus up to $500 on FanDuel. My apologies there. One more player I want to talk about, Jay. I know you are you have Miles Sanders on quite a few teams this year.
I do.
There's someone you are happy about that you like drafting in leagues this year. Are you concerned about him and the usage of Kenneth Gainwell so far?
That's what concerns me. He had a solid Miles Sanders had a solid week 1 because he was getting some receiving work. He did not get that this week, and he had, depending on scoring, 6.9 points. So he only had 13 attempts, 15 attempts last week. So it looks like he's going to be capped out at around 15 or so touches. If he's not getting those touchdowns, they've used Gainwell in the red zone. Gainwell got a 2-point conversion today. I still like Miles Sanders as an RB2, but I think it's going to be hard for him to jump into that back-end RB1 category that I, for one, think he's talented enough, but if he's not going to get the touches, then there's the concern.
I agree with you. What I've seen from him is enough to give me confidence that he's got RB1 talent, but I know some people did expect Gainwell to be used like this. People were high on him. I didn't expect Gainwell to be used as much, especially this early in the season. And it's definitely putting a damper on Miles Sanders' upside.
I thought it was going to be Boston Scott.
Yeah, right, goal they're using Gainwell. That's what the scariest part is for Miles Sanders, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, we are moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals versus Chicago Bears game over here. T. Higgins, I think, is the highlight for the Bengals with 6 receptions, 60 yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Jamar Chase was not far behind him, though. He only had 2 receptions, but similar stat line, 54 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. Is it? I don't know. I didn't even know what question to ask. Is Higgins the alpha? Is this another 1A, 1B scenario? Which of these receivers are you more excited about plugging into your lineup week in and week out now?
Yes.
1A,
Yep.
1B.
Yeah,
1A, 1B.
It's the nature of the beast in today's NFL. It's all about airing it out. They're both extremely talented. Chase is a big play guy. I think Higgins, I think they're both perfectly fine starts. I think they're locked in as wide receiver twos, or that could, once this offense starts clicking, they're going to put up some big weeks.
Yep, I completely agree. John Luke, are you buying into Higgins as the wide receiver one on this team, or is this a 1A, 1B scenario?
Yeah, I think it could be 1A, 1B. Honestly, without that big touchdown from Jamar Chase, his game looks really bad. His game line. He had 2 receptions on 4 targets for 54 yards and 1 touchdown. I don't know how many yards that last touchdown was, but it had to be a big chunk of that 54. So Higgins was targeted a lot, even with a fumble. So I would put Higgins as 1A at this point. Jamar Chase is 1B.
And Tyler Boyd got 10 targets.
That's what I wanted to bring
touchdown.
up. Tyler Boyd, while he's been the pinnacle of consistency the last 2 years, I think this year is going to be a bit different. But what this matchup showed me today is against teams that are weak against slot receivers, you can start Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is a startable asset, so you're going to have to play matchups with him. But this was a Chicago Bears team that got completely obliterated by the slot receiver last week. So there was some confidence going in. You could start Boyd, and he showed up. It was a decent game. The upside is capped. He's not a big play receiver like some of these other guys can be, but he's going to give you steady production in certain matchups.
And keep starting Joe Mixon.
100%.
He's gonna be great.
Albert saying 42-yard touchdown. I think so, JL. You were right. It was a big old chunk of those yards.
Oh man, if that's the case, then he ends the game with 12 yards, 1 reception, and no touchdown. That's not a good line.
Yep.
Not great.
Okay, guys. We're moving on to this Houston-Cleveland game, which for me was one of the more surprising final scores of the day, the 21-31, with the Texans actually competing quite a bit in this game. Now, I will admit I am a Browns fan, so a lot of my analysis is going to be focused on the Browns.
No way.
Cleveland. Hey, I took off the Browns hat at least. So
you did.
Good. And this isn't a Browns jacket. This is
it's just a brown
jacket. It's just a brown jacket. Take the S off of it. The first thing I wanted to talk about, so Jarvis Landry got banged up in this game. OBJ was out again, so the receiving options for Cleveland were pretty limited. But one thing Cleveland has that they're continuing to use is their 3 tight ends. So Harrison Bryant had 4 receptions, Austin Hooper had 5 receptions, and David Njoku had 2. So while the tight ends are getting very involved in this Cleveland offense, you might think that's a good sign. I don't know if there's a single one you can ever start because I don't know where the ball's going. It's unfortunate that they're going to be using the tight ends so heavily, and you can't start any of them on a week-to-week basis unless you're just taking a shot. Is there any one of these tight ends you guys are more interested in than the others between Bryant, Hooper, and Njoku?
Nope.
No. It's a wash, right? It's a complete wash.
And I want to tell you guys this: as long as Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham are out, all I want to start is the running backs there.
Yeah.
No Baker Mayfield,
which one?
no wide receivers.
Which ones?
Well, Nick Felton, because 2 running backs scored touchdowns.
Felton and Janovich is who Josh wants to start. The 2 running backs for the Browns.
Obviously, you didn't even have to say that.
No, but
Nick Chubb's it's what we expected. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Nick Chubb's a monster. That being said about Felton, though, with those 2 receiving options down, he became a little bit involved. He had some receiving work. He looked decent out there. So if there are more injuries, Felton's a player that could stay involved. Jimmy has a question for us. Jay, we're going to come to you first on this one. Down 3 points in a PPR league. He has Devontae Adams and TJ Hawkinson. Opponent has Mahomes. Who wins?
Ooh,
down 3 points.
I like his side.
I like your side. Jim E., if I had to pick a side of that I wanted to be on, I would take yours.
So, Simon, I like how you said you were going to go to me first, and then both of you answered.
You were taking
I knew what
I wanted to say.
Well, I wanted to say. I wanted to think about it. I'm not just going to jump. Yeah. All right.
Jay, we're going to go to you first. JL, what do you think about this one?
I agree.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Devontae Adams and Hawk, I'm very bullish on. Oh man, but Mahomes, you know what? I like your side of it. I'm not going to overthink this. He's going against Mahomes is going against the Ravens, so
guaranteed win. You heard it here
guaranteed
first.
Win, Jim E. We are guaranteed
unless you lose.
If you don't win, we will all dump water on ourselves next week.
I do not agree.
We all agree. Every single one of us.
JL agreed mostly.
Ah. Okay, guys, on the Houston side of the ball, Tyrod Taylor got injured and is going to be out for the Thursday night game. So Davis Mills will be the starting quarterback yet again for the Houston Texans on their Thursday night matchup next week. This is really disappointing for me because Taylor's looked good so far. Not just like an average game manager like he's advertised as. He's looked like a good quarterback. He's had some great scrambles, some good throws at the end of them. So I'm not dropping Taylor, especially in Superflex leagues. Like while he's injured, it's likely going to be a short-term injury. I'm not sure the extent of it. We have to wait for more news, but I'm still excited about Taylor going forward. John Luke, were there any players from this game that stood out to you that you want to talk about? Anyone that exceeded or went under your expectations for them?
I mean, I'm still kicking myself now that I was so off Brandon Cooks all offseason. I couldn't bring myself to draft him because he showed up again.
It's what he does.
Yeah.
Everybody underestimates him, and 14 targets today. Like, yeah, it's not going to be pretty, but he's 2 weeks in a row. He's put up double-digit points, 18.2 last week, 22.8 this week in PPR scoring. 18.3 in FanDuel scoring. Like, give me that all day long.
David Mills too. Mills. Let me sum it up for you guys. Brandon Cook's really good. You don't really want to start anyone else on this offense.
Mark Ingram.
I will say
Mark
Ingram, 14 carries.
Super inefficient again.
You're
very
inefficient.
inefficient.
You're praying for him to fall in the end zone. Like that's what it is with him.
Yeah.
I know Phillip Lindsay had one reception, but he looked great out there. And I was talking to Jay earlier. I do think as this season goes on, we're going to see Phillip Lindsay more and more involved in this offense. The two running backs ahead of him, David Johnson and Mark Ingram, are not the most durable. They're older running backs. I think we're going to see them get worn down a bit. And Phillip Lindsay, the young guy in this offense, is going to get used more as the season goes on. It's been a little bit disappointing thus far for him, but I have confidence in Lindsay going forward.
I agree with you, Simon.
There we go. We're all in agreement. Anything else from this game, guys?
No, I think we covered it.
Well, we're moving on to the beautiful game. The Dolphins came out.
The beautiful game.
Oh, this one's for you, Tim.
Tim, this is for you. This is for you. The Miami Dolphins shut out by the Buffalo Bills 35-0. The biggest storyline from this game being Tua knocked out with an injury. I know we weren't particularly excited. There was some optimism around Jalen Waddle, but nobody's super hyped about the receiving options here in Miami with Tua. Without Tua, how are you guys approaching the receiving options in Miami going forward?
Waddle was making rookie mistakes today, man. He was dropping easy passes. He muffed a punt return, which just really, really messed with the team. It did not, mess with their momentum. I'm not super excited about Jacoby Brissett. I'm still excited for Waddle. It just seemed like very much rookie wide receiver mistakes.
Yeah, and for a game full of those mistakes, 6 receptions, 48 yards is still okay. He was continuing to be targeted in that game, continuing to be used. What about you guys? Any interest in Jalen Waddle? We ignored Devontae Parker. Will Fuller's coming back. Without Tua, is there any interest in any of those options going forward?
Without Tua, if there's anybody that's close to the same value as these guys, I'm going to have to bench all the Dolphins until this offense shows they can do something with Brissett. It's unfortunate. I still like Waddle long-term, and, I'm not upset if I have to start him, but it's just Brissett did not look good out there. Granted, Buffalo does have a fantastic defense, but 0 points isn't too reassuring.
Yeah, they were. I will say they were using Waddle closer to the line of scrimmage. It seemed like I still think going forward, his rookie year, he's going to be the most efficient or most effective wide receiver or receiving option, just any fantasy option going forward for the Dolphins.
Yeah,
more than Myles Gaskin.
Completely agree with him.
Yes, more than Myles. I'm nervous for Myles Gaskin. Again, 5 attempts. That sucks to see. I want to see more attempts from him going forward. And so until further notice, he's on my bench.
I was going to say they were down. They lost this game 35-0. So it was obviously not a rushing game script for Myles Gaskin there. But without Tua, I don't know. This might be a similar story next week for the.
And Salvin Ahmed got 6 rushing attempts, while Malcolm Brown also got 5. So
they're just spreading it around, completely spreading it around. Okay, on the Buffalo side of the ball, I mentioned earlier that Cooper Kupp, and you know what? I bet Derrick Henry might have passed him now, but Cooper Kupp at the time was the highest positional player, but there was one player higher than them in FanDuel value, and that was this Buffalo defense against the Miami Dolphins. They were all Dolphins. I just combined
Dolphins. I love that.
The Dolphins.
Offense was very bad.
Their defense was so bad, and that could also be defense though. It could totally be either one. But the Buffalo defense was the MVP on FanDuel today, almost 6x returning their value. So if you went a little bit lower on that defense, didn't grab the Patriots, then the Buffalo D showed up for you. Diggs with a touchdown as well, kind of assuaging those concerns from week one. We're bringing the word back.
I'm saying
it's assuage, I'm pretty sure.
Assuaging.
For you guys, were there any other storylines that stood out? Was it Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox, the running backs in this game? What stood out to you?
Devin Singletary season, baby.
I hate you, JL.
Devin Singletary season.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Josh.
I'm nervous for the fantasy producers outside of Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen for this offense, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. While Singletary and Moss had good games, again, like we said for Gaskin, the score was 35-0. They could run the ball like crazy in this game. It's going to be hard to predict which one of these guys is getting.
But I will say, Devin Singletary, that was the first touchdown of the game. You can't make the game script.
You're right.
If I'm starting one of these two running backs, it's Devin Singletary. Does that make you feel better, Jay?
Yeah.
Also, Tim said, "Shut up." Finn's schedule's a bit of a cakewalk after week 4, so he's just holding his breath till week 4. And before we move on to the next game, Commando has a question for us: Ravens or Chiefs tonight? We got 2 Ravens fans on the stream, so we'll start with them. Josh, Ravens or Chiefs?
If you're betting on it, if you have anything on the line on this, it's the Chiefs. My heart tells me Ravens, so it's going to be a close game. It will be.
Jay?
I am not a Ravens fan, and Josh, I'm disappointed in you because I'm picking the Ravens tonight.
Oh, let's go. The Ravens are at home. I think it's going to be a really close game.
That's what does it for me.
I have trouble with, but the Chiefs, I mean, Lamar's 0-3 against the Chiefs or against Patrick Mahomes.
He's going to break that tonight.
Nah. Dale?
I'm going Ravens, baby. I'm going Ravens. I want this to be fun. I'm going Ravens.
I think it's a 3.5 point spread, if I remember correctly.
Josh, and
I'm going to take the underdog.
I'm with you, Josh. I think the Chiefs are going to win it, and they're going to win by more than 4. That is guaranteed.
I will be rooting for the Ravens.
I'll just be rooting for good football. I love Lamar Jackson, and I love watching the Chiefs play. It's going to be an absolutely fun game.
Let's go.
Oh, Guy Will Gamble, I thought you were saying hi to us, but you're just in here checking on the time. We've been on for 1 hour and 12 minutes, so there you go. 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 27 seconds to be exact. So we got you over there.
Well, it's not exact because by the time you read that, then more seconds had gone by. But.
Exact when it came in.
Oh,
exactly.
Now, I want to ask you guys something real quick. Are you concerned about Josh Allen necessarily not being not concerned from, he's a QB1, but he really hasn't had the QB1 games in the first 2 weeks. So.
A lot of people expected him to be, we're drafting him as the second overall quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes, right? So he's got to have a really good season in order to fulfill the shoes. I'm not nervous. He had a rushing touchdown call back. I think he's going to have a lot of rushing touchdowns going forward. I'm confident in Josh Allen for fantasy.
Well, and let's look at the first 2 matchups. Went up against the Steelers. That's a very tough team to go up against. And then went up against the Dolphins and won 35-0. That's not a great game script for a quarterback to be highly fantasy relevant. I'm not too concerned about Josh Allen. Do I expect regression from last year? Yeah, a little bit, but I'm not concerned about him overall as a fantasy player.
Yeah, me neither. He made an incredible pass to Stephon Diggs.
That was
and it was like his third or fourth read, and he just it was incredible.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. Just wanted to bring it up.
Okay, guys, we are moving on to this Denver-Jacksonville game. So Denver won 23-13. Jacksonville had a rough time, but they looked a little bit better than they did against the Texans. Not much, but we'll take marginal improvement in my eyes for this Jacksonville team. But the big storyline for me is with Jerry Jeudy out, Courtland Sutton with 159 receiving yards. I'm not asking is 159 receiving yards the new normal, but is Courtland Sutton a wide receiver 1 with Jerry Jeudy out in this offense? Is he a top 12 guy?
Top 24 for sure.
Top 24?
Yeah.
I set the line high. I was curious if any of you guys were that high on him after a performance like this.
If Teddy Bridgewater wasn't his quarterback, maybe, but it's going to be – I can't do it with it. Although, Teddy put up a big game, but I can't. Like Josh said, top 24 for sure. I'm sure he'll have some wide receiver 1 weeks, but he's going to be more in that wide receiver 2 range for me.
Yep, agree with you guys. On the Denver side, outside of him though, Noah Fant with a receiving touchdown. I know we've talked a bit about him upping his game with Jerry Jeudy out. How are you viewing Noah Fant in this offense going forward?
I think he's locked in as a tight end starter every week. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, he's got double digits. That, like I was talking about earlier, if you can get double digits out of the tight end position, obviously you're not talking about the Kelce's and the Wallers, but if you can get a baseline of double digits, you're more than happy. And he only had 4 catches today. He did have 6 targets. So averaging 7 targets over the past 2 games, you want that out of the tight end position.
Yep, I agree with you guys. Moving on to Jacksonville. Jack in the Box has a question for us. Do you think T-Law is a bust? John Luke, I know we talked about this a bit earlier, so I'm going to come to you first. What do you think about that question, about T-Law being a bust after 2 games?
I think the season it's off to a slower start than we think. Trevor's making passes. He's making plays that look like, he's talent. It's showing off his talent. He's absolutely going to get more comfortable in this offense. I just don't think the offense is moving quite like we thought it would in the offseason, honestly. I don't know if that's Urban Meyer. I don't know if that's just they're not connecting well. I'm not really quite sure what the exact reason is. In terms of is he a bust or not? Probably at where you drafted him, it's possible. That's how we're going to define bust here. And
I thought they were referring to an NFL bust, like
he's
a real
fantasy
bust.
year 1 bust, probably.
Maybe fantasy year 1. It depends where you drafted him, because I don't think he was really being crazy drafted high and redraft. But in terms of NFL, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No, I can't say that yet either.
No,
I would still pump the brakes on a fantasy. It's 2 weeks. Like it's going to take some
2
time.
weeks, yeah.
And, he did lose Travis Etienne, who's going to be a big part of this offense, I believe. So I think they're kind of having to I know, but it's still early. I still have some confidence in him in more of a super flex sense. That's how I play in a lot of super flex.
Yeah, super flex.
That's why I think people who are considering him a QB1 are definitely going to consider him a bust. But if you QB2, a top 20 type of guy, I still think that's well within the realm of possibility.
I think expectations were already tempered coming into the season a little bit from where he was being drafted. And if you look at the other rookie quarterbacks, they're not doing very well. It's, there is some adjustment here. And I think that, we've been a little bit spoiled. So
we've been so spoiled by rookies. That's what I was going to say. It's not the norm. It's the recency bias where we think a rookie quarterback comes in and turns a team around right away. It's Kyler Murray who's coming in and spoiling us, right? It's these young quarterbacks. You go back and you look at Eli Manning, Drew Brees, like Peyton Manning, some of these elite quarterbacks in their first couple seasons. I know it's a different NFL now, but sometimes quarterbacks need time to develop, and this is a horrible offense and a horrible O-line that T-Law has been put in to start his season. So I'm not concerned long term.
I would like to add 2-time Super Bowl MVP Eli Manning. So
I'll fight you Giants fan. And then the last thing. The last player for me on this game was Marvin Jones. I think you can continue plugging him in your lineup. That's 2 weeks in a row with a touchdown. Trevor seems to like him, and he has that role just about locked up. I like Marvin Jones going forward in fantasy.
Yeah, start Marvin Jones.
Over DJ Chark rest of season?
Yeah, DJ Chark had 4 targets. LaVisca, I think he's still going to be usable. I know he had a bad game, 7 targets, only 2 receptions, -3 yards. I'm not starting LaVisca. You start Marvin Jones. I'm not cutting LaVisca though either.
Yep, fully agree.
We got a question here before we move on to some of these other games. A bearded fat man wants to know, should I be worried about Jefferson, Woods, and Amari? Waddle is his 4th. I'm going to start with Amari Cooper. No.
Did he get hurt?
Don't he is injured.
He did get injured. He got hit. Let's see. Where's the alert? Cowboys wide receiver Amari Cooper got hit in the ribs late in the game. Coach Mike McCarthy said no further update.
Yeah, that was 34 minutes ago.
Yeah, but from like a usage perspective, Amari had a great week last week. This week wasn't as good, but I'm not concerned about him going forward. Him and CeeDee Lamb, like we said, 1A, 1B, they're going to continue being used. Josh, what do you think about Justin Jefferson? Are you worried about him?
Not at all. He had a pretty good game himself, so I'm not worried at all. Kirk Cousins was great too. Yeah. Yep. So no worries for Justin Jefferson. No worries for. I mean, I'm worried about all these guys in like coming into the season kind of sense. Like I'm downgraded all of them from where I had them coming in the season a little bit, but not enough to be actually concerned. There's 3 great receivers that you can play in fantasy lineup every week.
And Maria, I was not just calling some random commenter a bearded fat man. That is how he introduced
You're
himself.
probably very handsome.
So, yeah, you can be. Yeah, I bet you're a very handsome bearded fat man, Mr. A bearded fat man. But the last player, Robert Woods, we talked a bit about him earlier. I think we all agreed. Sound the alarms a little bit. Be concerned a little bit for Robert Woods. He's no longer the 1B in this offense. He's the 2 or the 3, depending on the week. Higbee it was not this week, but last week Higbee was the 2. So I think you do have to be concerned about Robert Woods. Okay, guys, we are on to these 4 p.m. games, and I know we talked a little bit about this one earlier. We're going to have to speed through these. So rapid-fire points that you guys want to make about the Atlanta-Tampa Bay game. What stands out to you, Josh?
Tom Brady, good.
Tom Brady, good. Gronk, good.
No, we're going to see a rotating.
Smash.
We're going to see these wide receivers rotate. And I'm talking about Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. They're all going to have good games in different weeks. There's probably going to be 2 of them that are going to have great games every week. Gronk's going to be great. He is a top 5 tight end for me going forward. And that's pretty much it. I don't really want to start the running backs. Not very excited. You can start Leonard Fournette, but not very excited about starting the running backs right now.
Yeah. Jack in the Box says, any ideas of who I could replace Woods with? There's likely not someone on your waiver wire I would replace Woods with.
You're starting Woods.
But you're starting Woods unless you can make a trade somewhere.
Yeah, I think you just have to temper expectations is the only thing. You're still running with Woods. He's going to have good games too. I think he had 9 targets today. So he's going to be involved.
Yeah.
And as your wide receiver 3 behind Jefferson and Amari Cooper, you're totally fine with Woods as a wide receiver 3. Just 100%. That top 12 upside is gone for you. So Brady good, Gronk smash. John Luke, on the Atlanta side of this ball, what stood out to you?
Atlanta bad. Atlanta real bad.
Atlanta bad.
Start your quarterbacks against Atlanta. Fire up your Daniel Jones next week is what I'm saying. Because holy cow.
And he looked good this week too. So that, I don't hate that take. No, I love that we saw Kyle Pitts get a little bit more action this week. 5 receptions, 73 yards, which isn't bad. 9.8 fantasy points. Yahoo, I don't know what it is on FanDuel. And Calvin Ridley, another one who, we were a little bit worried about last week. Yeah. We, I know some people were concerned after last week. If you watched our recap last week, you saw us say, "Don't worry about it. He's gonna come back to form." And this is it. And I think this is even. I think he can even go beyond this. I think he's gonna have better games than this. So not worried at all. I'm glad this Falcons offense was able to actually get some movement on the in this game versus last game.
JL like the movement of the Falcons.
I like the movement of the Falcons.
Guys, Patterson, real quick before we move on, we talked about him a little bit earlier, but I want to make sure anyone who's jumping in now, are we trusting Patterson going forward, Josh?
No, because we've seen in the past, but he's flexible. He's worth a fantasy.
He stretches a lot.
He's worth being on your fantasy team, but do not rely on this because we've seen it in the past, but he does have a great opportunity.
He has a good downward dog is from what we're saying.
Yes.
And his child's pose out of this world. The next game we're talking about, guys, Josh, or maybe it was Tim, one of you guys said in the middle of this game, like, holy cow, this was an entertaining game. The Vikings-Cardinals game, final score 34-33 for the Cardinals. And similar to the last one, Josh, I'm going to copy your point. Kyler Murray, good. Holy cow, is he so good at football. And then the other player, and we talked a bit about this at the beginning as well, so we don't need to hit on Rondale Moore, but Rondale Moore, I think, is taken over as the 2 there. We all were talking about that earlier. Outside of Rondale Moore, what stands out to you guys about this game on the Arizona side of the ball?
Even though he didn't have a big game, I still think Christian Kirk is usable as a flex. I think, you're going to need him to score touchdowns because of all the weapons that Kyler has. But like we've talked about many times, they love to use 4 wide receiver sets. Kirk still looked good. It just wasn't necessarily his week. I think he's perfectly fine as a flex start.
Yep, I agree. The other thing I think we need to talk about with this Arizona offense is the running game. So far, through 2 games, hasn't looked great for either running back. John Luke, which one of these running backs would you prefer to roster going forward? Chase Edmonds or James?
It's clearly Chase Edmonds.
It's still Edmonds.
I think we knew that coming into the season, and we're seeing that here, right? Similar number of carries. Chase Edmonds getting almost all the receiving work here. I think they're going to start getting it moving. This is most likely going to be a primarily passing offense, but I think that Edmonds is going to be a viable fantasy option going forward.
Yep, I agree. And Josh, we're going to come to you first on this one. Would you drop Sermon for Patterson?
Absolutely. I said it already. I'm willing to drop Sermon, and Cordell Patterson has a great opportunity. I don't trust him, but Trey Sermon's not playing next week. I would assume because of the concussion, and he wasn't involved this week even beforehand. So yeah.
Jay, you were one of the ones who said you wouldn't drop Sermon if you could. Would you drop him for Patterson?
It depends on the team situation. If you need a starter for next week at running back, then yes, I would obviously. But if you're looking at the end of bench stash, I believe in Trey Sermon's talent long-term more than I do Patterson. So it depends on the situation.
Was Trey Sermon's own, was that his first attempt?
Yes.
The entire season.
It was like in the third quarter.
Yeah. That's no good.
No.
So I would not, if it's a bench stash, no, I would rather have Sermon. If you need somebody to plug in your lineup with the next week or two, then yes, I would.
Okay, real quick on the Minnesota side of this ball, guys. Dalvin Cook got banged up, but it looks like he came back in the game. Adam Thielen with a touchdown. There was nothing too shocking for me on this side of the ball. What about you guys? It seemed business as usual for the most part.
Business as usual. Dalvin Cook, stardom. Justin Jefferson, stardom. Adam Thielen, stardom. The rest of the guys are going to be a little inconsistent. KJ Osborne looked good from a dynasty perspective.
Are you going to pick him up in redraft, Josh?
He's worth a pickup. I'm not going to rely on him. I'm not going to put him in my starting lineup.
Yep. And then the game that just ended, guys, I don't even know if we need to say anything about Derrick Henry in this league. Before we get to that, though, Bearded Fat Man says, I'm thinking about dropping Waddle for Rondale Moore. Josh, you're shaking your head, so I'm guessing you would not do that.
You can't do this. There's got to be a better person to drop than Waddle.
Yeah.
I want Rondale on my team, but Waddle's going to be good.
Yeah, I would definitely pick up Rondale, but I wouldn't drop Waddle.
You see if there's a different option to drop. I'm agreeing with Josh there. Now, if you could only pick one of those guys to be on your roster, which would it be?
Waddle.
He's
got a clearer path to targets. Rondale is, he's had some action the first 2 weeks, but you could easily see him fall to the wayside, becoming the fourth option more so than Waddle.
Also, Albert in here saying Lamar threw a pick six.
No!
Guys, we are going to be
I told you the Chiefs were going to win.
This Tennessee-Seattle game, guys, before we move on to our last game real quick, knock that one out. Is there anything else from this game that really stands out to you? We talked about Tyler Lockett a bit earlier.
Nope.
No, I think Chris Carson keeps starting him. Russell Wilson keeps starting him. And Julio Jones showing signs of life today. You can start Julio Jones.
He had a touchdown stole from him, too, on review. He should have had a touchdown. So
he was out.
I don't think he was, but
his heel was out. Just a little bit. I don't know. It was so close. It was so
very
close. I wasn't sure. It was called a touchdown on the field. I kind of thought they were going to stay with it.
Right.
And then, guys, I think there's one major thing we need to talk about from this Dallas Cowboys Los Angeles Chargers game before we go on, or before we end our stream for the day, and that is Tony Pollard's usage. Not just his fantasy success, but the amount of usage that he saw in this offense. Zeke had 16 carries, and Tony Pollard had 13, and he had one more reception than Zeke did. Is this the new normal for the Dallas running game? Are both of these running backs going to be equally involved going forward? This is tough, right? This is a tough one.
It really is.
Because it's so not what we expected. It is the usage so far is so opposite of what I expected. I thought Pollard would come in occasionally, but they're splitting. They split just about evenly today.
Zeke's the starter in my mind. He's going to get the most carries. I mean, that's not even saying anything crazy. He's going to get the most carries going forward. Tony Pollard, 13 carries, 109 yards. He looked electric. He is very fast. He's good. They're going to use both these guys. And
at least this week, I thought he looked better than Zeke. Honestly, he really did.
I'm not saying he is better than Zeke, but I'm saying in this game he looked better than Zeke. I agree with you, Jay. It was a great Pollard game. Would you guys be willing to start Pollard weekly in one of your running back spots in your lineup at this point? Is he a weekly startable running back?
I have to see it more consistently before I'm comfortable with that.
Maybe a flex.
Would you rather start Tony Pollard or Cordell Patterson next week in your flex? Or rest of season going forward? We'll take the matchups out of it.
Question.
Oh, Philly. So Pollard's got Philly, and who is Patterson?
The Giants.
I think it's Cordell.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh, it's Pollard for me.
I think it's Pollard for me as well, but that's a gross question. That one hurt my feelings to even ask. You guys want to water bet it? Cordero Patterson versus Tony Pollard week 3. Okay, water bet, and we will we'll pay him out and upload him. Woo! That is the grossest water bet we have ever made, guys.
I'm honestly ashamed that I made that bet.
Oh, Tyson Williams looking good in this game so far, guys.
I think that's Dale, that's a good reminder. It is Sunday Night Football. Anyone here still watching? What are you doing? Go watch the rest of this game.
No, don't say that.
Don't say that.
Because I'm about to go do it.
After this, yeah.
After this, I'm going to go watch the game. A bearded fat man saying, let's go.
He's excited. Thanks for coming in. Great questions.
Not just you, a bearded fat man. Everyone else here.
Bearded fat man.
A handsome bearded fat man.
The handsomest bearded fat man.
Thank you, everyone else, for coming in and watching and talking some football with us. We are here every Sunday at 7 p.m. recapping the day's game. So come and hang out with us again. And if you have not done so already, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the FanDuel YouTube channel. And if you're watching us on Twitch, go and follow them on Twitch. There's so much great content and these awesome content creators coming out of FanDuel. You do not want to be missing out on that. And that includes us 2 days a week on the FanDuel channel. So if you liked watching us, make sure you tune in next Sunday and on Fridays at 6 p.m. whenever we do our game show on the Twitch and YouTube for FanDuel as well. Guys, we got a Sunday Night Football game to catch. Anything else we need to touch on before we jump off?
Nope.
Go Ravens!
Ooh, one last question. Next week.
It's Tyson.
It's probably
Elijah Mitchell for me.
Ew,
he didn't look good, man.
It's Tyson for me.
If Tyson looks decent tonight, I'm going to go Tyson.
Oh my gosh!
Answer the question so I can watch.
What happened?
I don't know. There was the ball got popped up and then Devin Duvernay caught it in the end zone and got a touchdown. It was weird. I
caught it in the touchdown.
All right.
Okay. Let's get out of here.
We're out of here, guys. Anthony said streaming FanDuel and FYF makes fantasy fun. That is
anything else, Josh, that makes fantasy fun?
Trading makes fantasy fun. Trading is fun. Let's go.
Whoa,
that is a crazy play, guys. Holy crap. Tyson Williams got the ball popped out of his hand, and then Devin Duvernay was just there, caught it in the end zone. I'm
ending this. I'm going to watch football. We'll see you guys next week. Adios, everybody.
Goodbye. Have a good night.